Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. We're here live on Roku, YouTube, Facebook, and a bunch of other places, folks. I'm your host, Mac, your co-host, the legendary boxing Hall of Fame writer himself, Jack Hirsch. Today on the show, we'll be having Keith Angle from TGI Sports, Byron Williams, our NFL analyst, and we'll also be having Pags, the Philly sports guy, coming in at the second hour. So, Jack, there's a lot of things going on, and I want to mention even before we get to the NBA update that tomorrow night, light heavyweight championship of the world, Jack Hirsch will be there live covering the fight between Artur Beterbiev and Joe Smith Jr., two hard-punching champions in their own right. We'll be going out to kind of unify it a little bit. You still got Bivol out there, but this will be the guy that will be really the light heavyweight champion of the world. And Jack, you know how much I like Joe Smith Jr. in this fight. I know you're going with Beterbiev to win, but I think Joe Smith upsets this guy.
That's what I love about you, Mac. The respect that you give the sport of boxing. That's a big, big fight in the world of boxing that could slip under the radar a little sports-wise, even though it's going to be telecast on ESPN. I was at the press conference yesterday, and I'll be honest, I shouldn't say it. I can't help but pull for Joe Smith Jr. in a certain sense, him being the underdog, him being a New York fighter. But in a small way, I root for Beterbiev as well because our colleague who comes on this show a lot, John Scully, he's the co-trainer of Artur Beterbiev, along with Mark Ramsey, who's the head trainer there.
Right.
So we want only the best for John, Scully as well, and any fighter that he's associated with. It should be like a great, great fight, exciting. Artur Beterbiev against Joe Smith Jr. at the Hulu Theater, the small arena at Madison Square Garden. It should be in the big arena, Mac. I hear they have a concert there. I heard by Eric Clapton at MSG. That's what I heard. I didn't look that up to see who's holding the concert. Can you imagine it's someone else? And I'm saying Eric Clapton. Someone out there, look it up for me and get back.
Well, if that is true, that is very interesting because the greatest fight of the century, there was a concert scheduled that they canceled.
James Taylor.
Yes, so that would be. That's pretty interesting. So
James Taylor moved the date. They gave them 8 tickets or something to the fight, and they moved the date, to let Ali Frazier go on a Monday night.
I know.
Monday night. Why the heck did they need a Monday night? Why couldn't the Garden move it a day or two later? But they negotiated with James Taylor then. But this fight, as big as it is, Beterbiev and Smith, isn't on a par with Ali Frazier. Nothing ever was.
Nothing. There's a couple that are close, but nothing can be better than that fight. So let's get to the NBA last night, Jack. The Warriors win in 6. Great pick by you. You called it out. You said the Warriors would win in 6, even though you kind of hedged last time we talked. But
don't give me credit, Mac. I'm a man who likes to take credit, but I did pick the Warriors in 6, but I did not pick them to win the NBA title at the beginning of the season.
Right. So I mean that's a good pick. Byron Williams also made that pick on his show with Jim Jeffcoat, JMB Talking Shop. So he also liked the Warriors. He'll be on in a little bit. So they win the ball game. They and one of my facts came true too, Jack. I said the team that gets out and wins the first quarter has normally won the games. And 5 out of 6, it happened. And the Warriors were up in the first quarter, 27-22.
Mac, the Celtics were up 14-2. The Celtics came out blazing. It looked like Boston was going to blow Golden State out. They were at home. Their fans were psyched. They were in a frenzy. Right off the bat, it looked like we were on our way to Game 7 in Golden State. And then the Golden State's underrated defense took over. They stabilized, and took complete control of the game and really never looked back.
I agree. And you want to know something? what's going to really tick me off on all these other shows today is going to be 5 things they're talking about that have really nothing to do with it. It seems like today we talk about and examine why a team lost, and we don't give credit to the winners anymore. The Boston Celtics, plain and simple, were just the best team 4 out of those 6 games. You could say all the
Golden State, you mean?
Yeah, I mean Golden State. Sorry, out of the 4 out of the 6 games. Period. That's the end of the discussion. You can sit there and examine anything you want. So what you're going to hear, Jack, what you're going to hear is you're going to hear, why the Celtics lost. That's going to be the first thing you're going to hear the whole time on the show. Why did they lose? And what if, and if this happened, if that happened? Well, folks, it didn't happen. The Warriors won the game. I hate the what ifs and what could have happened if the Celtics didn't turn the ball over so much. If they didn't, if their defense played harder, blah, blah. They didn't. The Warriors, plain and simple, beat them, Jack.
Yeah, but in Boston, Mac, they are going to talk what went wrong. You have to consider the Celtics won games 1 and 3. They were up 2-1, and they had game 4 in Boston, a chance to go up 3-1. They could start smelling the championship. I mean, they were a couple of games away, and 2 of those games remaining were going to be in Boston. And then it just, I don't want to say unraveled. I think Golden State took over. They had a better team top to bottom. And the Celtics, I think even though they play really suffocating defense at times, players like Marcus Smart, basically they're 2 superstars, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, didn't play poorly on balance, but they didn't put their stamp on the series the way you would expect a couple of superstars to. But when all is said and done, look, there has to be a winner, there has to be a loser. Had Boston won, we would have been talking what went wrong with Golden State, why they couldn't finish the job. I think Boston let their opportunity get away in game 5 and was 2 games apiece. When Steph Curry had that dreadful shooting night, it was the first time in over 200 games he failed to make a 3-pointer. He missed shot after shot. And if Golden State can win a game when Steph Curry is shooting so poorly, he's going to bounce back. What does that say for your chances going forward? And we did see Steph Curry bounce back yesterday.
Yeah, there's been a lot of games, and even in playoffs, where that 1 star or 2 stars aren't playing well, and the other team picks up. They play better. They got more of a chance to play also. I mean, we forget to say, Steph Curry has the ball in his hands. That means nobody else does when he's shooting like that. So I just think the Warriors are just a better team 4 out of 6
games.
In
game 5, Andrew Wiggins was sensational. Absolutely sensational with Steph Curry off form. I mean, he grabbed like 16 rebounds, scored a lot of points, played incredible defense. I mean, he was a superstar, Andrew Wiggins, in game 5, and very good throughout the series. Steph Curry did bounce back last night. He had a big game. But what would have been interesting, Mac, if Steph Curry had another off game and Andrew Wiggins played a similar game to the way he played in game 5, who would have been the finals MVP? Now, Steph Curry in the 3 Golden State championships before never got the MVP award. He came a little short to Iguodala and Durant in those series, but Steph Curry's always been a team player first. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with that.
But the thing about it is, sentimentally, everyone wanted to see Steph Curry, who was objective. I'm not talking about Celtic fans. Wanted to see Steph Curry win the MVP.
I know.
If Steph Curry Finals MVP, if he had a bad game 6, and
he would have got it anyway,
and Wiggins stepped up, who would have gotten the MVP? It's as if the voters wanted to vote for Steph Curry. He deserved it at the end. He
Yeah.
deserved it on balance,
Yeah,
but it
look,
would have been
he did his
interesting
job.
had he not
Listen, he's a great player.
closed it out yesterday.
There's no denying he's not a great player. He's one of the greatest players of all time. But again, it was politicized, Jack. They were voting for Curry before the series even started. But anyway, so you brought up a great thing, and I want to get to that too. Steph Curry. Now, Steph Curry, again, one of the greatest of all time. You can't deny that over his career. He's one of the best shooters of all time. But the next thing you're going to hear is where he rates amongst the greatest, the top 5. And you know something? He doesn't. He just doesn't rate with the top 5. You can't take anybody out of that top 5 or even maybe the top 10 and put Steph Curry in it. He isn't going to be better than LeBron James. He's not going to be better than Michael Jordan. He's not going to be better than Will Chamberlain. He's not going to be better than Bill Russell. He's not going to be better than maybe
Kobe Bryant,
or Shaquille O'Neal. I mean,
Oscar Robertson.
Oscar Robertson. He's not. He's just not. He's a great shooter. He's a great NBA player. He's going to the Hall of Fame. There's no doubt about it. But now all these talking heads on every show are going to try and put him in the top 5 of all time, which is absolutely ridiculous, Jack.
Yeah, I don't want to say ridiculous because he's arguably the greatest shooter of all time. You know who I rate him basically on the par with it? You could rate him maybe slightly ahead of perhaps a Jerry West, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe. Right.
They were both great shooters. Steph holds a little edge there. I mean, there's never been a better shooter than Steph Curry. You could say there have been some as good, maybe like a Reggie Miller, you could say was as good. Even his own coach, Steve Kerr, was a terrific shooter. He wasn't a terrific player, but a terrific shooter. But I agree with you, Mac, on that. I mean, Steph Curry is a great player, but I can't say he's one of the greatest of all time. I mean, if you give me Steph Curry or Tim Duncan, who do I take? Do I really Steph Curry or Allen Iverson? Who do I take? I mean, I maybe take Steph because he's more of a team guy. So I'd rather have him on my squad from that sense. Kawhi Leonard is at his best to Steph. That's kind of close.
Durant. I mean, there's so
Durant, I would put ahead of Steph Curry.
Really? Yeah.
Okay. And Steph Curry's great. He is great. And I can keep saying that word over and over again. But why do we have to find a place for him? Say, top 5, top 10. If we're forced to pick a place, let's get a little conservative. If we say top 20, if we're forced to pick a place, now I start feeling more comfortable. And there's nothing the matter with being top 20.
I don't think
20 could be a dominant player still.
In the history of the NBA, to be in the top 20 is a select club, Jack. And I think
let me tell you something. I could give you a player from Golden State, and we forget the old timers. If I tell you he was better than Steph Curry, maybe he was, maybe he wasn't, but we can argue it. Rick Barry. Right. We can have a fair argument on that. Okay, who was better? You could say Steph Curry was better, but not by a lot.
Right. Listen, I agree, Jack. But you're going to have him on there. You're going to have everybody. Oh, he's top 5 of all time. He's on the Mount Rushmore. Blah blah. Come on, man.
I will say this about Steph Curry, and I mean this. If we had to pick one of the greatest role models of all time, he's it. And that's more important than what you do only on the court. Steph Curry is the ultimate team player. He's the ultimate gentleman, the way he acts. He's always nice. He's always polite. I mean, he strikes me as a first-class human being. I mean, he's just – and if you had to have a teammate, who would you want more than Steph Curry?
I agree.
I mean, you wouldn't want anyone more than him. There are other great teammates, but he's the ultimate teammate to have.
Now, let me tell you, Jack, I mean, to talk about a guy that does everything. I mean, he hustles, he drives to the basket, he sets his players up. I mean, he's great. There's no denying Steph Curry.
He's great with the media, too.
He's excellent.
Phony. You know what they said yesterday, Mac? First question they asked him, How does it feel to be the finals MVP? He shut that down. He says, I don't want to hear from that. It's us. Let's talk about us winning this championship here.
Right.
He didn't want to hear about his individual accolade. He was happy to get it. Listen, let me tell you why the finals MVP was important. Maybe not so much to Steph Curry personally, but all the noise made about it. People would have always said in their silliness, well, he was a 4-time NBA champion, but he never won the finals MVP. Who cares in reality? But the media, these talk shows are going to dwell on this negative nonsense. Okay, so thankfully he got it out of the way. He could say he was a finals MVP. So for the sake of shutting people up, right, that was important.
Okay, I'll go along with that. The next thing you're going to hear is what happened to Tatum. Well, what happened to Tatum is Tatum got shut down. I mean, to me, every NBA final, every championship, every sports World Series, I mean, wherever you want to go, there's this great player that has a bad series. It happens. Tatum is a great player. He's not one of the best in the league. He's not top 5 in the league. Of course not. Top 10, yeah, he is. But that's what you're going to hear. Oh, Tatum lost the game. No, the Celtics lost the game. The Celtics, the Boston Celtics lost, 4 out of 6 games. Tatum is an important part of that team, definitely. But he's not the only player on that team. And, I've seen series where the star player doesn't play well, and you have somebody like Kevin McHale, or you have somebody like Moses Malone. All of a sudden, these guys come to the forefront and win the games. So I don't want to hear all day, and you're going to, Jack, trust me. If you turn on that channel, you're going to hear, oh, what happened to Tatum? Tatum had a bad series, plain and simple.
I don't think Tatum – I don't necessarily agree. From the perspective, Mac, of what was expected of him for the Celtics to win, you can say what you said. Okay, I can buy it in that. But so much was put on the back of Tatum and Brown. They were expected to carry the team, okay? They were the two who were expected to supply all the firepower. They couldn't just be above average to good. They had to be very good, for the Celtics to win this series. And it didn't turn out that way, with Tatum and Brown. I mean, they were decent on balance if you want to take the 6 games, into consideration.
Listen, Jack, for most of the games, either one of them matched Steph Curry's numbers. Yesterday, Brown matched Steph Curry's numbers. I mean, one of the players did match his numbers. I just think that the Warriors shut down Tatum, and the rest of the team couldn't put it together. Their defense.
Draymond Green stepped up like usual. He played really, really good defense, and he played the role of an intimidator. An interesting debate would be this, and they love having these debates on shows. And maybe you could add this into our debate show tomorrow, Mac. Who would you rather have, on your team, Draymond Green or Dennis Rodman? Both were great intimidators on defense, okay? And their value went far above statistics. I mean, Rodman is better at grabbing rebounds. Draymond Green's maybe a little better defending on a guy one-on-one, but they're both intimidators. Rodman was a physical intimidator, and Draymond Green would get in guys' faces, throw them off the game. When he would foul them, he would do it very slyly. His elbow would come across and hit him. We saw his fingertips went across, one of the Celtics, I think Jaylen Brown's face yesterday. And, what he brings to the team, like a certain attitude that throws the opposition off. I mean, it doesn't show up in the box score. But, Draymond Green, Iguodala, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, talk about a 4-core. They talk about the Yankees 4-core. Those 4 have been there for 4 Golden State championships.
Yeah.
4 championships in 8 years. But in reality, it's like 5 because one of the years they didn't win it, they set the NBA record for the most wins in the season with 73. So out of the last 8 years, they've had the most dominating team in basketball. And another year, they lost in the NBA Finals. So when you think of it, they've been to the finals 6 out of the 8 years. And, had Kevin Durant not got injured that one year, who knows, maybe they'd beat Toronto. But you know what they showed too? And we don't like to mention stuff like this, but you can't help but for it to come out. Kevin Durant joined the Golden State Warriors after they'd won an NBA title. But the year before, they lost in 7 games, but had a 73-win season. After he left, Golden State wins the NBA title without Kevin Durant, which shows what a great team that they were. I think the difference is when they had Kevin Durant, they were a super team, not just a championship team, but a super team. That was the difference. But you kind of wonder what Kevin Durant is thinking today. Had he stayed with Golden State, he'd be an NBA champion again now. Now he's with a net team that's in turmoil. And Mac, I don't know what you saw. The latest starts came up from Las Vegas about next year, who's favored to win the title. Golden State's favored to repeat. But as incredible as it sounds, that the Nets are tied next with the Celtics to see who would win it. The Nets are rated better odds than the Milwaukee Bucks, the Sixers, and so on to win the NBA title next year. I mean, I guess the odds make us believe Kyrie Irving might get it together. But even if Kyrie gets it together, he never won without LeBron James in Cleveland. As soon as LeBron left, the Cavaliers fell apart with Kyrie. They were nothing before LeBron and nothing when he left. I mean, and this is with Kyrie there.
There's a lot of people that just follow players and the hype jack. They don't follow the teams. And speaking of that, the last thing you're going to hear, and you're going to hear this all day too, is what do the Celtics do now, right? They lost the championship. They've made it to the playoffs. They
didn't win the championship. I don't like to say they lost it.
Right. So anyway, no, I'll say they lost it. But anyway, you can say it any way you want. They lost the championship, and everybody's going to be saying, well, what should the Celtics do now? They shouldn't do absolutely anything, folks. Nothing. If they have a bad year next year, then you could talk about it. But I don't want to hear all these, we got to trade or we got to do this, and they got a great team. And if they have a bad season next year, then the talk should start. Don't be giving me the Celtics, they need more of this and they need more of that. Maybe they should trade Tatum. You're going to hear all this nonsense until the beginning of next year. Maybe the coach is not that good. Are you kidding me? They've made it to the championship. They were the best in the East in a very tough division. And I get tired of this kind of stuff.
Mac, it's interesting. I just mentioned Kevin Durant a little while ago with Kyrie. Imagine Kyrie and Durant did not join forces in Brooklyn and decided to stay where they were. Durant at Golden State, they wanted him to stay there badly. And Kyrie at Boston, where he promised to stay and then changed his mind.
Right.
This series meant Kyrie would have been with the Celtics. Durant would have been with the Warriors. One of them would have been an NBA champion, this season. And the other would have come a little short. And they would have been better off just staying where the heck they were. They wanted to join forces in Brooklyn. And we all thought, they're going to have a super team. Then James Harden joined them. And then, this net team, they might have problems even making the playoffs next year.
I agree.
They're not even a lock to make the playoffs. And, maybe they'll go on a run. Maybe they'll be dedicated from the start. The chemistry will be there, and they'll make a championship run. It's not incomprehensible to think that'll happen. But as it turned out, both guys would have been better off just staying put.
Yeah, well, the question would have been, would the Celtics go to the championship if Kyrie Irving was there? That's my question. I don't know.
If he bought in, they wouldn't have been worse. They would have been. They wouldn't have been. Well, you never know what the chemistry could that have affected. Brown, Tatum. Listen, Kyrie's last year with the Celtics, they went to the finals in the East and they lost in 7 games, 1 game away from going to the NBA Finals. Kyrie was out injured in that time. Had Kyrie been healthy, I believe they would have beaten that Cavalier team with LeBron, because that team wasn't that strong, that Cavalier team at that point.
I don't know, Jack.
LeBron basically carried them into the NBA Finals.
I don't know. What could happen? I don't know, but I do know
Yep.
the Nets are definitely a mess. And we had Joe D. Ambrosia on yesterday, folks, at Connecticut Sports, Voice of Connecticut Sports, and we talked a little bit about the local teams that the Connecticut people root for, because we have no professional team at all. So we were talking, and he agreed. He just said the Nets are just a mess, Jack.
Yeah. Let me just say something about the Celtics. Kudos to the Celtics getting to the NBA Finals. I know, Mac, you don't like to acknowledge a lot of times other sports show hosts, but I can't help but acknowledge the silliness of Stephen A. Smith, who I actually respect on balance. I mean, but listen, he's always held it against LeBron James, the amount of times he lost in the finals, okay? But and I mention this because of the Celtics. They overachieved this season by getting to the finals, because remember, last year they lost to the Nets in 5 games. So I don't want to hear what their record is in the finals. It doesn't make them a failure. It was a big success this year getting to the finals. So if a team doesn't get to the finals, you can't say what their finals record is. But if a team gets there and they're 0-1, 0-2, 0-3, imagine, you get to the championship series more times than you're expected. You overachieve, and then you have guys like Stephen A. holding it against you if you don't win. Oh, LeBron James, he's only 4-6 in the finals. Never mind that he shouldn't have been there 5 of the years that they lost, but because he carried his team there, a guy like Stephen A. holds it against them, and that's unfortunate.
You got to stop watching Stephen A. Smith, Jack. It's going to give you.
I turn all the shows. I like my friend Max Kellerman, who talks about things logically, in my view.
I agree.
But I have a hard time stomaching Keyshawn Johnson at times. He wasn't exactly the best teammate, but
Now, listen, Keyshawn, I'll tell you right now, I'd rather listen to Randy Moss than
Keyshawn Johnson.
Keyshawn Johnson any day of the week. Folks, backstage right now, we got NFL expert, our NFL analysis, Byron Williams, who was a former star wide receiver in the NFL, primarily for the Giants, has his own show on Wednesday with Jim Jeffcoat, J&B Talking Shop, so tune in to check that out. But let's bring up Byron and see what's going on. Byron, how you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Byron, congratulations. After a dismal season of NFL predictions, you nailed it with the NBA picking Golden State.
Yes,
so
I did.
Your football predictions were off, but basketball, you were right on.
I was a pretty good basketball player, so I kind of know a little something.
Well, Jim owes you a steak dinner, doesn't he?
Absolutely.
That was the deal, right? Yeah.
I cannot tell Jim anything, but he's learning from me. I tell you that.
Did Jim pick the Celtics?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He picked the Celtics, and you know what? The first game, he blew up my phone. I told you, Boston. So he was all excited. I said, Jim, it's a long run. You don't win the race in the first step.
No. Byron, when you played football, wide receivers a thinking man's position. Jim did things on instinct.
Absolutely.
You did this using hair. Okay, so that's that.
Absolutely. And I try to tell you, it's the difference between being on the bottom of the pile and being on the top of the pile.
Yeah, it is.
I never thought how was it be on the. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think I'm driving Matt crazy now with this conversation. Quiet down for a little.
No, you're not driving me crazy at all, Jack. Byron, Deshaun Watson. Here we go again. He's back in the news. There's some NFL executives that feel he should not be on the field at all until these civil suits are resolved. There's 2 more women that are joining pretty soon. That'll bring up to 26. They're afraid of the drip. More women joining, more bad press for the NFL, more bad press for the Browns. There's some NFL executives that are very mad at Goodell for not taking action already. And so What do you think, Byron? Do you think it's going to come to the point where the NFL finally says, "Hey, listen, man, we just can't do this no more. You get them resolved, or you can't play." Do you think that's possible?
I think so, because there's so much negativity and it just brings so much bad news. They should have not even allowed him to be signed with another team until this matter was completely, over with. And now, the Browns are looking really, really stupid. And it is just so much negativity. It just don't make sense. And we don't even still know all the facts. I mean, it's amazing that they're still adding people and complaints and things like that. So, the NFL just don't need this case scenario.
I'm not sure from my end what action the NFL should take, what's going on behind the scenes. But this is what disturbs me about the Watson contract with Cleveland, not the amount of money he got. The reason Cleveland offered him that mega contract, because that was the only way they were going to get him to sign with Cleveland, because that wasn't one of his first choices. But the structure of the contract, paying him only $1 million next year, because Watson's side anticipates they could be suspended for a year, so he would lose very little. I don't think the NFL should allow that type of contract, because you can't really comment on this, Byron, being with the Players Association, but Matt can, because it sets a terrible precedent. Any player who's in danger of any type of suspension can have a contract redone where he gets paid very little the following season and gets it on the back end. So if he's suspended a year, Watson loses next to nothing compared to the amount he makes. So I don't like that. The NFL should have a way to maybe find someone a percentage of the remaining money on his contract, not just the time he's out. Because I think they made a mockery of this Cleveland, the way they got, and Watson, the way they got around,
I don't know if the NFL should step in on team negotiations like that, Jack. I think that's something they should stay out of if it's not hurting the NFL. As far as how much the team offers, that's up to the team, in my opinion. I think the Cleveland Browns are foolish. I mean, I think they really listen. They drafted Baker Mayfield number 1. They go to the playoffs. He's injured last year, so that their team kind of falls apart a little bit. And he's not the best quarterback in the league. There's no doubt about that. He's not even a top 10 to me, but he is a good quarterback. And here's their franchise quarterback. They finally make it to the playoffs, and they say to Baker, "Well, see you later. We're going to give this guy more money than anybody possibly could give him. It's guaranteed." So what does that say about the Browns owner and management? Is what drives me nuts. I mean, the Browns fans got to be going crazy, Byron.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's really not. It's not fair to the fans, but it's all decisions from the owner and the general manager, and they need to, they have made they look really stupid the way things are on, and it's really sad that they put themselves and that team in a situation like that. Because I guess they probably been doing a lot of investigation. They decided that we're gonna try Deshaun Watson, but Baker Mayfield wasn't really a bad player. I mean, he was
terrible, Byron, at the end of the season last year. He was awful.
Yeah, I mean, he was probably he was off, but he's still a good player. He's still a first round draft chart, first pick. And when you picked him, you just got to go with him for 5 years.
They went with him a few years. He had 4 years in the league, Baker Mayfield. It's not like he wasn't given time. He had a couple of good seasons. Byron, you as a former wide receiver, come on.
I know.
Would you rather be a quarterback, Deshaun Watson, Baker Mayfield? It's not even close.
But I'm still saying, though, so many things, so many variables happen in the NFL with injuries and it's just strength of your schedule and things like that too. So, you have to look at everything. They did go to the playoff. He did a great job. I mean, he didn't. And then they had a lot of wide receiver problems. So I just think, but they made their decision. I'm not saying they making the right decision, but I'm thinking that they really look like they got the egg on their face right now.
They look like clowns. They look like fools. I mean, this could be This could be the Cleveland Browns. This could be the biggest disaster in NFL history if this comes to fruition. And he is, and he gets sued, and the Cleveland Browns are messed up, because you're talking, if they let these civil suits go forward, if they don't offer the money, and the league comes out and says, hey, listen, he can't play until this civil suit is over. I mean, there's going to be some people that are jumping on for money. I realize that, and that happens all the time. But to resolve these civil suits, you're talking 2-3 years if they want to drag it, 5 years if they want to drag it out, and you lose Deshaun Watson for 5 years, say 3 to 5 years. I mean, that is the biggest.
No, the NFL isn't going to suspend them that long. No.
If they say, Jack, if they say, what I'm saying is, they say that he doesn't take the field till these civil suits are resolved, if that becomes the ruling, which some NFL executives want to happen, if that's true, Cleveland will be without Deshaun Watson for a few years.
Absolutely. And then, when they offered those people $100,000 and it didn't go anywhere, they should have knew then that it was gonna probably be a serious problem. And
that was the dumbest thing to offer them. And I don't want to say 100,000 is chump change, because it's life altering for a lot of people.
Right.
But for a man signs a 230 million guaranteed, 230 million guaranteed, and he's offering 2.2 million as a settlement. You want to make this darn thing go away. So take 30 mil and you have 200 mil. And if you could offer, let's say, $1 million to like 25 women or whatever, that's life altering. And I have to assume they'll say, yeah, $1 million. They all get $1 million. We settle it. They speak to the attorney, Tony Busby, and they make it go away because it's big money. And there can't be any disclosure. And then the women will feel, oh boy, I mean, they'll feel violated, some of them, no doubt about it. But financially, they would have been compensated, in a sincere way, at least financially.
Yeah.
But
I think
$100,000. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I think they should have waited to see what the investigation was, or the settlement is, or something like that, to make it, close the door on it. But with it being open like this, it's a serious matter for the Browns, I tell you.
It sure is. And and the other players, I mean, to me, the other players that want all this guaranteed money that have had problems, I mean, the teams, I think, hopefully they'll look at this situation and say, well, I don't know if I'm going to offer you all this guaranteed money. I don't know if it affects the players that are looking for money that have had problems in the past or not, Byron. It may affect them too when they're trying to negotiate a contract.
Yeah, absolutely. It probably it's gonna definitely be a trickle down effect, one way or the other. But it's so much negative case scenario with all this stuff being, still open, and the court civil cases and things like that. It's nothing good to say about it right now.
But Byron, you know the way these things work. If the season starts and Deshaun Watson gets the Browns off to 3-0 start and play sensationally, Cleveland will love him.
Absolutely.
That's the way it works. Winning changes a feel of things.
Really, what you have done for me lately, if you go out and start winning, it's a whole different case scenario. But man, I'm telling you, with not him being being able to play on the field, or if he's still suspended, it's still going to be a lot of serious problems.
I agree. And the other big news is, of course, Jackson is in camp right now without a contract. He doesn't have an agent like other players do. He and his mom and his uncle and his whatever else friend is negotiating these contracts for him. What do you think Jackson is waiting for, Byron? Is he really? He says he wants to win a Super Bowl before he signs a contract, which to me is nonsense. I don't believe that for a minute.
That's
what do you think he's waiting for? I mean, is he waiting to see what happens with Watson? Is he waiting to see if any other quarterbacks sign for what money? I mean, he pretty much can go in there and get a top salary right now if he wants it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm pretty sure he's looking at what Watson got, and of course, Aaron Rodgers and Mahomes is the two highest paid, and then with Deshaun just signed that, he's the third highest paid. So yeah, he probably looking at that case scenario. But I was him. I would just go in and just be a part of everything, positivity. I mean, the team is still strong. The only thing that I think they need to work on is some wide receiver case scenario, because they got to replace Brown, which went to the Cardinals. But I do think that a couple of problems were stirring this week with Willie Snead, another receiver that came over from New Orleans, and I think I just think that they were looking at the offensive coordinator on the style of offense that they have and they running. But I think he got, he's won 37 games out of 49 that he have played in. So he got a lot of positivity things going and happening for him. So I just think it's just a matter of the management and the general manager, working out his contract, and hopefully, they can get that resolved real quickly. But, I think right now he's at the OTAs, and he's in a pretty good seat. But I still say that, they got to just work out the case numbers that they're looking for.
I'm going to tell you something. If I'm Lamar Jackson, I sign as soon as I can. I take a little less. And when I mean a little less, I don't insist I'm on the Watson, Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers territory getting paid. I'll get paid more like a Zach Prescott, but, guaranteed money, 5 years or whatever, big life-altering money, because Lamar Jackson isn't as sure a thing at quarterback as a Deshaun Watson going forward, as an Aaron Rodgers, as a Patrick Mahomes. He could fall into the RG3 category. Remember the great rookie year RG3 had? Lamar Jackson, the way he runs, injury prone, he might not have a contract. Then at the end of the year, he might have a hard time. You never know. He could descend to the point where he has a hard time finding a starting position. No team is going to pay him this earth-shattering money that he can get right now. So take a little less. Put your ego on the shelf. Instead of $225 million or whatever, take, $195 million. I'm just giving an example in years, whatever. But this is his time to make a deal. And I think he's gambling on himself too much, because if he becomes a free agent, who's going to sign him for this incredible amount of money as a free agent and invest all these years in a running quarterback like him?
Yeah, and I agree with that. And injuries do come into the effect. I know this year he ended up missing 5 or 6 games, I think.
Yeah.
And they went into the tank when he got hurt. I think they were 1-4 while he was injured this year, and they was 8-3. I mean, leading up to week 12, Baltimore was 8-3, and they were leading the AFC division. So, but Baltimore needs to just make sure everybody's happy. But he's still, like I say, he's still sitting in a real good seat. But yeah, these injuries really hurt him. But he can't say he was the MVP several years back.
Yeah, sometimes it's the years offered that is a stumbling block, right? I mean, sometimes they want, you say, okay, like 4 years, I'll give you this. They want 6 or 8 years, right. And it might even be cheaper, but maybe the Ravens don't want to go that long. That could be the only thing holding it up. We just don't know. So, right. Byron, with these position players getting signed for these big money deals in Miami, at the Raiders and all these teams, it's going to be very interesting to me to see, and I'm not talking about quarterback, I'm talking about position players, Aaron Donald, how these teams work this year, how competitive they are. Because if they don't make the playoffs, or they're not competitive, I mean, that's a huge mistake by these teams taking up that much salary cap.
Absolutely, because salary cap is I think it's 218 or something like that, 218 million point something. But I don't see how they stretching these contracts with these guaranteed I guess the guaranteed money is one thing, but I think with these big time players that's moving and getting these nice contracts, after a while, in 2 or 3 years, a lot of these teams ain't gonna have too much salary cap to sign some other good players.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, this is the way they're constructing teams right now. Is everybody wants to win now and they don't want to win tomorrow, and that's all well and good. But if you don't win now, I don't know what to say. I mean, then you could consider it a bad move, I guess. I mean, you look at Tyreek Hill going to Miami right now for all that money. I don't know if that was a good deal or not for Miami, because Miami had a lot of draft picks still, and they had so many people that they could bring on and use and they spent not only gave up draft picks, but spent all that money on Tyreek Hill. When we know the quarterback there was Patrick Mahomes, right. And we know that they had a great receiving crew with a great tight end. I don't know if Miami has a great tight end. I don't know if
Jalen Waddle at the other wide receiver.
Yeah, that's a good point.
A little bit of a
good
ruckus.
Point. Good point, Jack. That's a great point. But how is Tyreek Hill going to fit into that system? And can Tua throw that ball that far to him? I mean, I know they're going to run a lot of hitches and screens and all that stuff, but Tyreek Hill is most dangerous when he gets behind or in between players way downfield. That's where he's dangerous. And I don't know if Tua can do that. We're going to have to find that out.
And plus, I hope they be real creative in their offensive game planning. And because, I mean, if Tua can't throw the ball in the alleys and in these certain type of case scenarios, it's gonna be hard for Miami to get the players down the field and get them loose. But I think Jalen Waddle got hurt last year too at the end of the year. So you got to be creative in your play calling and play design. And like you say, you do need a tight end. You need a combination of different players to open up the field and create these windows and opportunities, and hopefully Tua can do it. It's still gonna be a lot of things pending, and plus the AFC East is a tough division. It's not no division that you think Miami just gonna go from being third place to a first place team.
Yeah, I agree with that too, Byron. I just don't know if Tua can throw the ball over 60 yards yet. I don't know.
Well, part of it too, and Byron can vouch for this. I mean, I don't know. Have you ever been in this situation? But you would understand. You have a superstar wide receiver in Tyreek Hill going to his new team, but there's another great wide receiver in Jalen Waddle. How did you coexist? You got to kind of put your egos on the side. Like, the Rams did it when they had Kupp and Woods, but it takes a certain personality. Tyreek Hill doesn't strike me as that type of guy. He strikes me as the type who feels, I've got to be the man. I've got to get all the big throws. And then you got Jalen Waddle, who's, you could make an argument, especially if he improves in his second year, which you anticipate he will, that he's just as good, as Tyreek Hill, or close to being as good. And who's going to get the ball thrown to them more? Is they're going to be discontent on the sideline? Because Tyreek Hill immediately said something that was eye-catching. He thought Tua is a little more of an accurate passer than the guy who just left, Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, he's accurate with 8-yard passes. I'm not going to argue that. But that created, some waves.
But just think about this, Jack. If you just get paid all that money, you're going to come in with a lot of positive statements.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But what I don't like about Tyreek Hill, I think he's selfish. I think when you look at him while he was playing with the Chiefs, that if he didn't get that ball, he would go to the sideline and puff like a little baby. And I'm thinking that he gonna bring that same attitude to Miami. So it might be, it might start off really good, but if they get into some serious games, with the Jets and the Buffalo Bills and the teams they have to play, then it's gonna be it's gonna blow up in their face, because I think he's a selfish player. He's not a team player.
Wow. So Byron, let's get to a little bit of Giants news. I mean, listen, every team right now is saying how great their team looks. They're impressed with this guy. You don't hear anybody saying, "Oh, this guy sucks" or anything like that. They just cut him and move on. So right now, what they're saying is Saquon Barkley looks as good as he has ever. They're going to use him, splitting him out. They're going to move him around a lot, which should have been happening anyway when he's healthy. What do you think? Do you think if Saquon has a great year or even a good year, do you think that improves the Giants maybe 2-3 games?
I think so. But I think what I like about the Giants this year is that they're gonna have a whole different dynamic for the offense, creativity on the play calling. I think they're gonna be more like the Buffalo Bills type of offense. If you're looking at it, being able to use the skill sets of the different players and moving them around and not being so predictable. And that's what's gonna bring excitement. I think a couple of their players going to be a little bit more mature-minded, and I think they're going to be team-oriented versus being individual type style of play.
I agree with that. So they're talking a lot. There's a lot of talk about, that Jones is throwing well, that, the new tight end likes to block. You can hear all this kind of news coming out before they start hitting. Do you think, now I think this is a valid question. A new coach in preseason games will take a little extra longer look at the veterans. I mean, he may play the veterans longer because he's really not sure. I mean, he's seen tape on him and everything, but he's not sure how they're going to work in that system. And if that rookie or that second-year player, which, they're going to look at anyway, do you think that they might take a little extra look at the Giants veterans this year?
I think they might take a little extra look at some of the veterans, but I think now if I'm being a coach and I know my 30-something player that I really love, then I'm thinking about maybe the other 15 to 20 guys that I really need to add for us in different types of roles for us setting up the offense and the style of play that I want to create. But they might take a little bit longer look. But I think if a player was injured last year, they might not take a bigger chance on looking at him like they would look at some younger players. But they definitely want to look at the chemistry. They want to look at the different sets of offense and then the how we can plug this package of players in. You have your 10 your dime package and your nickel package, and you might have a three tight end set to come in and do certain things inside the 20-yard line. So those are things I think that they want to make sure that they have in place.
Is Tyrod Taylor the most important Giant this year?
I think he could be a key factor just in case what they're trying to create. They might want to bring him in from time to time, just change the dynamics of challenges for the defenses, and I think that'll be another option package that they could add to their offense.
5-12 on the season. That's what it's telling me. If you need to bring in your backup quarterback, Tyrod Taylor, who's been around forever, and run package plays for him, you're in trouble. Really are.
It worked for the Saints. I think with way football.
They didn't do that with Drew Brees. I mean, run all these packages.
Oh, they brought in that running back quarterback quite a few times.
They did. It was a package that they had with Drew Brees at the end of his career that they started doing, but it worked for the Saints.
Well, listen, when Peyton Manning went to the Broncos, technically Tim Tebow was still there, but then they moved on from him quickly after. They could have kept Tebow around for package plays, but Peyton Manning didn't want to know from that nonsense. Right. He wasn't leaving the field. You have an established quarterback who's your leader. You don't want him leaving the field for package play. I mean, come on.
Had Peyton Manning and Tom Brady know how to get the ball out.
You're talking about two of the greatest quarterbacks of all time compared to Daniel Jones. What I meant by that, though, was that, if Daniel Jones can't lead the team or gets injured, you have an experienced quarterback in there that can at least fill in for a little while and maybe a stopgap, and maybe the Giants could stay competitive instead of falling apart after the game.
Competent backup. That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, Taylor's competent backup.
Exactly right. I think your backup quarterback got to be a good quarterback.
I agree.
We saw that last year. The Giants they looked like they was kindergarten plays out there after Jones got hurt. I mean, they didn't have nobody to really do anything.
They had to win and run.
Make a break for Daniel Jones this year. I don't want to hear next year Byron's saying, well, you got to give him more time. He's
Listen,
learning.
Jack, Byron likes Daniel Jones. Leave him alone. Just like you like what's his name there over in Patriot Land there. You like him. I don't think he's that good.
Mac Jones had only 1 year in the league, and he had an excellent rookie year. Come on.
So did Daniel Jones. Anyway, Byron, we'll see you next week. Thanks for stopping in. Everybody, check out J&B Talking Shop. The views are going up. The guys got a great chemistry happening right now. They have a lot of fun, and they cover a lot of stuff. Byron is killing it in information right now, and Jim is getting smoother as the lead host. I love watching the show now. It's a lot of fun. Folks, check it out. J&B Talking Shop every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central on Northeast Streaming Sports, Roku, and YouTube channel. Thank you, Byron. Have a great weekend, my friend.
All right. Happy Father's Day, guys.
Thank you. Happy Father's Day to you.
Hey, and you continue to celebrate Miss London on that anniversary.
I will. Thank you, Byron.
See you guys.
All right, buddy. Have a good one. There you go, folks. Byron Williams reminding me of my marital obligations here. But as I told him on J&B, I gave her the greatest gift of all. I married her, right, Jack? I mean, what else can you say?
Yeah, listen, I'm on your side 100%, Mac, because when she married you, she knew she was getting the worst end of the deal. I'm on your side.
Yes. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break. On the other side of the break, we'll have Keith Angle coming on TGI Sports, talking Yankees, Patriots, Knicks, NIL. There's some more information about that came out. We'll cover with Keith. We'll be right back after these messages, folks.
Wow, Tony, they're tough. You're next.
Don't worry, Ace. We need practice. But first, let's start with a complete breakfast, including my Kellogg's Frosted Flakes. It helps bring out the tiger in you.
I hope your serve is good.
Good serve? Why, this serving's great.
Show your run, Tiger. Show them what you can do.
All yours, Tiger.
The taste of Kellogg's Frosted Flakes. Brings out the tiger in you.
And you.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
My baloney has a first name. It's O-S-C-A-R. My baloney has a second name. It's M-A-Y-E-R. Oh, I love to eat it every day. If you ask me why, I'll say, 'cause Oscar Mayer has a way with B-O-L-O-G-N-A.
Oscar Mayer, the first name in Bologna.
How's that?
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
Tito's presents Chester Cheetah.
I'm Chester Cheetah. I'm just a cool dude in a loose mood. Until I see those Tito's. Then my cool turns to drool. My style and ease surrender to my urge for the snack that goes crunch. It's not easy being cheesy.
Cheetos cheese flavored snack. Cheese that goes crunch.
Probably. Let's see. Oh, baby.
If you're talking, they will hear you every single time.
Now we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. Zero tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's a first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I've made it clear to Matt that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, Bill, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Try.
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, folks, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. This is our Friday edition. Don't forget, Saturday we have our debate. We have Sunday we have This Week in Sports. But I'm your host, Mac, with your co-host, Jack Hirsch. And we have our special guest coming right out of the chute, TGI Sports Talk, Keith Angle, who covers the Yankees, college sports in some cases, the Patriots, and what else is it? He covers the Knicks too, I think, Jack. I think we have somebody covering the Knicks for some reason.
I want to know is Keith getting his Yankee card back, Mac? You got to address that during the show.
That's not happening. I am not going to play the Yankee song to bring him in. I'm not going to do that to Keith today. Not that I know of anyway. It depends how I feel how the show, this segment goes. But let's bring Keith up. Let's talk to him and see how the great Keith Angle is doing. How are you doing today, Keith?
Good to be with you guys. Good to see you back together on a Friday. I knew you wouldn't be here last Friday, Mac, but when I came in and Jack wasn't here, I thought there was a coup and you guys were gone from the show forever. I don't know.
I know, but as you see, we're professionals. We make sure somebody's always covering the show for us.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We try not to leave anybody out to dry when we got so many viewers and followers that follow us and look forward to our shows.
I was treated with much more respect last Friday.
Listen, players go on the disabled list. Why can't talk show hosts too?
No, I agree. We all need that time.
They can, but the only professional shows get to keep it covered, Jack. The show must go on, man. I mean, that the show must go on. So anyway, Keith, let's start with the Yankees. Of course, they won again last night. I don't know what their record is anymore. It's getting close to 50 wins. I know that. The pitching is standing up. Yeah, 47, right? I think it is.
Yep, 47-16.
And we could sweep one of our nemesis, I think, today. I think we have a chance of sweeping them. Should be interesting to see if we do. And the Blue Jays lost to the mighty Orioles. And I'll tell you something, me and Jack fool around about the Orioles sometimes. That's an exciting young team. They're not great by any means, but man, they can sneak up and beat you, and they have a lot of fun doing it. I mean, that's a fun team to watch, Keith.
I will tell you, they play hard every night, right? They don't have the talent that the rest of this division's got for sure, but they play hard. I think I'm trying to think of their manager's name. I think it's Hyde. He's been under some fire, but I mean, he's got these kids. Their backs are up against a wall, but they come out and they play every night, thinking they can beat you. So, and they're only, I don't know, they're 8 games under 500 or something, which isn't great. But, when you're used to this team losing 110 games a year, that's not so bad.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I love it. In fact, when they're playing and they're playing against a team and I got to look, I'll peek because these guys just have fun. They're hitting home runs. They're running the bases. I mean, they're up. There's no give up in these guys, and I love that. I love that about a team.
Yeah.
So anyway, so the Yankees are taking care of the Rays very quickly, and they're trying to get as many games up as possible. Of course, down the line, depending how things work out, you're going to want to give some starters rests. You want to get a couple of relievers in there. I don't know if any of you start spreading the news, but they're in depth about the Yankees. They cover everything about the Yankees from the minor leagues up. And the easiest deals, from what I understand, is getting extra relievers. And it's really easy to pick them up. A good quality reliever you can pick up for almost nothing for a year to make that run. I know they're having a little problem in center field, and I got the answer for you for that coming up. But what do you think, Keith? You think maybe a couple relievers, or maybe bringing up a young starter to see what he's got as the year progresses, to give these guys maybe a day off from the rotation?
Yeah, I would bring in and fortify the bullpen because, you've had some injuries there with Chad Green out for the year, and who knows what you're going to get out of Chapman. Loaizaga hopefully will come back healthy. But even with these injuries, listen, Holmes and King have pitched lights out carrying that bullpen. They're still really, really good there. But I think they could use some depth. As far as the starting pitcher, I don't know if they'll trade for one or not. What I would do if it were me, they've had Clark Schmidt in the bullpen most of the year, and he's a starter by trade normally. I might send him back to the minors and stretch him out if I fortify that bullpen.
Right.
And then I've got him to kind of slide in that rotation. Who knows whether Herman's going to have some offer something later in the year. They might. You get some other kids in the minors too. So I don't know that I'd bring another starter in necessarily at the trade deadline. I'd focus myself on that bullpen and, another outfielder, because those holes in left and center could bite you in the postseason. So,
who's always intrigued me, who I thought the Yankees should make a hard push for, and maybe he would be available, the Minnesota Twins outfielder Brian Buxton, who's been injury prone, but he was a budding superstar at one point. They thought he was sensational, but he's been hurt. He's been out a lot, and they did sign him to a long-term deal, something like but at reasonable money, something like $12-13 million a year.
Yeah,
that would be affordable to gamble on. You kind of wonder whether the Yankees would have the chips to go after Buxton, and whether the Twins would be willing to trade him, because he's been less than sensational for Minnesota. He's the one guy. If I were GM, if I had a Yankee GM, I would be targeting.
Yeah, I love Brian Buxton's potential. I've mentioned it before. And first of all, I don't think the Twins trade him because they're going to be in contention, all year long. So I don't think they trade him. Everybody's enticed by his potential. He reminds me a lot of Aaron Hicks. Aaron Hicks had all this potential, and we saw brief snips of it here and there when he wasn't injured. But he never really fulfilled that promise. And he came from the Twins, if I remember. I don't know if the Yankees want to revisit that path anyway, but I don't think he'll be available. Guy I'd look at would be somebody like Victor Robles from Washington, who I know will be available, and he's a possibility.
I've heard rumors of that too, Keith. There's a reliever right now that's pitching lights out who had Tommy John surgery. Used to pitch for the Yankees, was pretty good.
Pitch in Chicago, does he?
Yeah, he might. And this pitcher might be available. Could you imagine bringing him on board?
If you're talking about Robertson, which I think you are, I think he'd be a great addition to the staff.
Is he still around, David Robertson?
He is. He's pitching with the Cubs, and he's pitched pretty well this year, and a really bad team. And I think he would be definitely somebody that the Yankees will target at or before the trade deadline. The deadline's not they moved it back, I think, to August 2nd or 3rd. But I think you're going to see teams making trades long before that.
You guys don't want to know from Gardy coming back, but you would bring back an old warhorse like David Robertson.
Listen,
Robertson can still contribute.
he's throwing the ball over 90 miles an hour again, Jack. He's got the cutter going again. Listen, I don't know.
Gardy can contribute. You need another spare outfield, and it'll cost you nothing in return.
I got enough guys who can hit 220 and catch the ball in the outfield. I got enough.
Gardy would be a good, could maybe help out coaching or something, or be a mentor. I don't think I wouldn't revisit Gardy. In fact, I think that might add to the problems of the rotation of what they have already, which is already bad. As far as the best field they would have, to me, Keith, the best outfield, is to have Judge in center, Stanton in left, and then you slide that left fielder over to right field where he was a Gold Glover. I don't. He's lost in left field over there at Yankee Stadium. When he played at right field, that couple games I saw, he played pretty good. In fact,
you talking about Hicks?
No, I'm talking about our left fielder. That's supposedly
Gallo.
Yeah, that's his natural position. He's a left-hander. He plays right field. So,
yeah, but I need that guy to contribute a little more than 7 RBIs every 3 months. So
that's what he is, Keith. I mean, that's what you got with him. He gets hot. He can hit 4 home runs in 6 games, and then he gets ice cold again. That's what you.
But the guy's got 5 home runs now and 7 RBIs. I mean, it's June. What is it? June 20th? I don't even know what it is. June 17th. Gosh,
That's why we need Gardy to come back. He'd do better.
I will agree on one thing. Gardy would have 7 RBIs by now. Yes.
Yes, he definitely would. He definitely would. And maybe a couple home runs too. There's a really interesting thing that happened. I know you remember the wide receiver Golden Tate. He got signed over an independent league. Seems he was drafted out of high school by I think it was the Pirates, and he was drafted out of college by the Giants. He's like 32 years old right now. He's given it a shot. If he plays well, you could probably get him for a song.
Yeah.
Would that be something if you saw Golden Tate in the Yankees outfield and center field if he's any good? Wouldn't that be?
I would probably have to have an intervention because there's obviously Cashman would have been doing some kind of drugs or alcohol that he needs an intervention for. If we saw Golden Tate starting in the Yankee outfield, yes.
Listen, who knows? Maybe he's
Now he may, a year from now, maybe my story's different. But the guy hasn't played baseball on a real level in
I agree.
Probably 12 years or better.
I agree. But maybe he would be worse than Hicks. I don't know. I don't know.
Well,
right?
You know what?
I have a theory, guys.
There is that. He could probably go hit $170 like Gallo, probably.
If he was good enough to make the big leagues, if he would have been a legitimate big league ball player before, I think because of all his football training over the years, he's in phenomenal shape. He can make the adjustment back to baseball. I really believe that if he was good enough to begin with, unlike Tim Tebow, who really wasn't quite good enough to begin with.
That was kind of a circus, I think, just for
Remember Tim Tebow? Listen, Tim Tebow hit 273 one year in the minors, so it wasn't a joke of a player. But he wasn't a valid big leaguer. But
he had 273 in single A at Binghamton.
I think he played 10 games. I'm not sure, but anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just amusing to me to see Golden Tate, see him come back to New York, and who knows?
To Jack's point, I mean, if the guy was good enough to play, 12 years ago when he got drafted, or how many years it was, I don't doubt he could maybe make his way to the major leagues and contribute. Now, I don't think that can happen in a month. I think that's going to take a couple of years.
At least a year. At least a year,
right? You got to get that hand-eye coordination. It doesn't know how great your shape you're in. Hitting a baseball is the hardest thing to do in sports. So
that's debatable. That's the hardest thing to do in sports.
That's why I threw it out there, Jack, to see what you'd say when I said it.
Yeah.
Listen. He's fast enough to cover the field. That's for sure. That would be definitely a plus there. Let's talk a little bit about what Oregon's doing right now, and a lot of teams are going to be doing this. The NCAA has lifted the 25-man scholarship limit. You can go high as you want. So with the portal involved and with the players being signed, Oregon says they're going to have a over 85-guy roster to start, to see what they're going to. So Keith, here's another example of the big schools that are going to be able to come in and not only have a limit on how many they can get anybody they want now.
Yeah.
This thing is so out of control. My draft idea is looking better and better every day.
I don't know if I can get quite that far. Is the NCAA in trouble? Absolutely. I mean, we talked about this. I've talked about it since the very beginning with NIL. And I had my worries about the portal, and the whole thing is just blowing up in the NCAA's face, just like I thought it would. And there has to be some kind of correction made. I don't know what it is. Your idea is drastic. I don't know if you've reached out to the NCAA yet, but, they still need somebody to lead that organization, Mac. Maybe that's your new career path.
I don't want no part of that, man. I don't want no part of that at all. I mean, that right now is like a fire you're jumping into. I feel bad for the next president there because he's going to be going through so much nonsense. He's going to be fighting with the conferences. He's going to be fighting with the teams. He's going to be fighting to try to restore some kind of order there, which and people forget. Listen, this thing is NCAA is not going away. It's a government appointed body. Way back when the NCAA is going to be here, the only way that goes anywhere is the government shuts it down. That's not going to happen, folks.
The conferences could leave the flagship of the NCAA if they wanted to, but right now there's no benefit to them to do that. There could be down the road, but look at what the NCAA needs. They need a president to replace Mike Emmert, but then you need a commissioner of football under him, a commissioner of basketball, somebody who can police. They put vague rules into place, and then nobody enforces them.
Nobody cares.
Until the FBI gets involved or somebody from the government gets involved. That's when the NCAA goes, oh, wait a minute. Now we got to pay attention to what's going on out here at Arizona or Kansas or wherever it might be. There are so many criminal investigations still going on. It makes your head spin. And they've been going on for years. And some guys have already gone to prison, assistant coaches and whatnot, mostly on the basketball side now, to be clear. But, still, these things there is a huge scandal going to break here in the next 5 years.
Before that, it's going to happen before that.
You're right. Yeah.
So, I'm telling you, and everybody says, you can't do that, blah, blah. They're kids. They're not kids. I don't care what the state's rules are. They're not kids. They're adults. And adults are making these decisions, and their families are making these decisions for them. And they're being pushed down the wrong road. And whether you like it or not, it is no longer an amateur sport. It's done. That is gone.
And the opinions of most professionals, kids don't reach young adults don't reach their peak maturity for decision making until they're 27 years old. Just an FYI.
I understand that, and I think that some of them at 27 and 30 still don't know what to do with their.
I don't. Yeah, it's not everyone. So, I said, it took me like 60 years to get to my.
I'm still floundering around, so I don't know.
Well, there you go. I got a ways to go then to reach even Jack.
Look, Jack's sure about one thing. He's sure about one thing. He loves his bagels in the morning for breakfast. I know that he knows.
What do you put on it? Listen, I was listening to a radio show today, not to hijack the questions, but what'd you put on your bagel? It's important that I know what's on your bagel, Jack.
Yeah.
Well, I like bagels, but I don't have them too often. They're high in carbs.
Peanut butter? What do we put on it?
I like peanut butter. I sometimes have a peanut butter sandwich, sometimes peanut butter and jelly.
All right, before Mac labels me Jack Jr., let's move on.
Thank you. So, of course, the Patriots are all, as I said to Byron, all the teams are, we're good, we're ready to rock, we look great. Yeah. And, of course, they don't. They look okay. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're not anywhere close to being ready to play football yet. The Patriots, Trent Brown is excited about Coach Patricia, believe it or not, coaching the line and the other things he's coaching. And he's talking about a possible move to left end back, to left end from right end, which I guess is his strength. Going to be very important for the Patriots line to be really good this year, Keith.
Well, I agree. The line is one place they didn't, they didn't address as well. They brought in their number one pick, obviously, but there's still some holes that need to be addressed. And again, the reason that they made making some of the changes that they're making is the talk is that they're looking to change their offensive approach, as I talked about, I think last Sunday when we were chatting about it. It's interesting. It'll be interesting to see whether it's just chatter or it's, subterfuge. I don't know. But, if they change their approach and go to a more of a zone blocking scheme, then they need different kinds of athletes. And that'll explain why they drafted Strong and why they're looking to move guys around this line. And I think Matt Patricia can handle this side of the ball. People talk about, people going from defense to offense. But you know what? When you're a defensive coach, you've seen all the offensive plays that get run against you. There's no reason you shouldn't be able to go over there and work on that side of the ball. And he may still be involved in the play calling in general as well, which I would be okay with because Matt Patricia's, probably one of he wasn't as successful as a head coach, but he is one of the smartest guys in the NFL. The guy's literally a rocket scientist.
Wait. So when he was head coach of the Lions, you're telling me he wasn't in charge of play calling there? He would allow the Lions to keep floundering and keep out of the way. Obviously, he was very.
You do need some talent to be able to make those plays work. So yes,
Didn't he have Matthew Stafford as his quarterback, the Super Bowl winning MVP? Not MVP, Super Bowl, winning quarterback last year.
Yeah, Joe Namath won 1 Super Bowl too. So you got to have talent around you.
I don't go for that.
You got to have You got to have some talent around you, and there's no talent. There's no talent there except for a handful of years.
Well, it wasn't
the Matt Patricia years either.
Keith, you know something? I think talent is a little overrated in a lot of sports. I think it's more chemistry. You don't have to have the greatest
talent.
Right. I agree. But it depends on how it's used. Listen, everybody that makes it to the NFL has some talent.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the best of the college players, supposedly. It's just a different. It's just a different game and how they're utilized. And I think it takes an organization like the Steelers, like these winning organizations, Kansas City Chiefs, that learn how to develop the talent on the fly and use them right. That's hard to do. That's hard to learn.
I agree.
And just because Patricia failed at one team doesn't mean he's going to fail again. Because as we know, there's been
Bill Parcells has failed.
Sure,
Bill Parcells failed miserably his first time around. So,
and listen, speaking of talent, guys, talk about comebacks. There's talk that Julius Edelman is going to make a comeback, but not with Tom Brady. Would it be back to New England? Would Belichick welcome him back, or what?
I don't know if he's coming back. He made a comment the other day in a press conference that was kind of, we'll just see. When he was asked directly about coming back and playing with Tom, I believe it was a direct question. I don't think Gronk has even made a decision about coming back and playing yet, unless I missed it. I think he's still on the edge. So I think Edelman is done. Once you sit out a year, I don't know. Gronk did it. Gronk was rejuvenated a little bit when he came back, but
Gronk's just waiting for the season to start. He doesn't want to go through all that nonsense in the workouts. That's all that is.
That's a good point. I mean, it could happen in the last week of training camp. I don't know, right? Yeah. So
that's what Gronk's doing. I know what Gronk's doing. He's not partying. The hell with all that stuff.
If Edelman did come back, I'd love to see him come back as a Patriot, but I don't see any of these guys coming back that way, right? I think they want to put the old band together, and if it happens, it'll probably happen in Tampa.
Yeah.
And Edelman's a great point. You were talking about teams who develop players. Edelman was not a big draft choice out of college. He was only playing special teams his first 2, 3, maybe 4 years.
Former quarterback.
And they found a niche. What they do, and all the organizations you mentioned do this. They find a way to take guys with some talent and find a way to put them in a position to succeed, right? They don't try to get them to do things they aren't able to do.
100%.
And that's the difference. That's the difference.
100%. And that's very, and people don't realize how hard that is. I mean, you got a lot of players, a lot of options, a lot of different things. People don't realize how hard it is to develop a player. You got some players that can step in, no doubt. All right. Yeah. These guys are exceptional. But there are other very good players out there that could become great if you handle them right. And it could have an important part of the team. And that's where teams, I think, are better than other teams. Even the most talented team can get beat by a team that's not as talented, but they have a better chemistry. They have a better out of the New England Patriots. I'll just say out of the New England Patriots.
Yeah.
A couple years they were great. A couple years they were really good, but they won the Super Bowl.
Especially early in that dynasty, they beat a lot of teams that were better than them. They weren't better than that Los Angeles Rams team they beat the first time they won a Super Bowl. So
that was for sure. And I don't think they were I don't think they were better than that Raiders team that they won in the championship either, to be honest with you.
Yeah. They were better than on that day each time, right? That's all. That's all that matters. And
they had a great kicker who could kick in the snow, and a rule that Tom Brady made.
Well, the years that they lost playoff games or Super Bowls, you could say they were the better team, even though they lost. I don't want to hear that.
I was just going to say that.
Look, if you win, you're the better team. If you lose, you're not.
I agree. Yeah, 100%.
I agree. And like we say, the best team doesn't always win. The best team that day, who's better prepared, wins. And the Giants did that against the Patriots in 2007.
That was more than the day. At the time of the season, by the time the Patriots, during the unbeaten run, played the Giants were just as good at that point because the Patriots had won all the games. Then they started kind of leveling out. and the Giants had a momentum going. The Giants were just as good when they took the field. It was a type of situation where either team could win. Look, Patriots had a hard time beating them the last game of the season.
They beat them by 10
Giants were only
points.
getting better, and New England was kind of running out of gas at that point of the year.
Well, they beat them by 10 points, and then they ran through their
12
playoff games until they got to the Super Bowl. So, I mean, again, I don't think that team was out of gas. That team was game planned well against. The Giants had a great game plan that day. And anytime you can, and this is Tom Brady and any quarterback, if you can rush 4 guys and get pressure on a quarterback, you're going to probably have pretty good success against that offense. And that's what the Giants did that day. And they were just a better team that day. If they played that game 10 times, the Patriots will probably win 9 of them.
No. You could say
I'm telling you, that team was that good.
You could say the Patriots would win 6.
All right, I'll say 8. Not 6. They'd win
7.
worse.
7 maybe. On a good
7.5. I'll take 7.
We're negotiating here. Keith, great job as always, folks. Check out TGI Sports. Got a great site. He's all over the place. He's on Twitter now. I found him. I didn't even know he was there, but he's on Twitter. He's on Facebook. He's on YouTube. He's on Roku with us at Northeast Streaming Sports. Great show, great part of the program. And we got some more exciting news coming about Northeast Streaming Sports behind the scenes. I can't let it out of the bag yet, but some big things are happening right now, folks. So
exciting.
Stick with the network. And Keith, again, thank you for coming in and all your hard work, my friend.
Absolutely. Love it. Love being with you guys.
Keith, and I know with Jeter going on Twitter, you were soon to follow.
Yeah, I go everywhere Derek goes. Yes.
He's a Derek Jeter stalker. All right, Keith, have a great one, my friend.
And bye, guys.
All right. So there you go, folks. Keith Angle from TGI Sports. And right after these messages, we got what y'all been waiting for. The Philly sports guy, Jamie Pags himself, will be coming up after the commercial break. Again, big news with him, too. Big news for the network. And, of course, we're going to get the Philly sports, the actual Philly sports, not the made-up one in the papers.
Big news in Philly, Mac. There's so much going on, even stuff you probably aren't aware of. I want to throw out the Pags.
Oh, I'm glad. Pags will love it. Pags will eat it up for dinner. So, folks, right after these messages, we'll be right back with the Philly sports guy himself, my friend and a great commentator, Jamie Pags. Be right back after this, folks. Where you at, baby? Where you at? There you are.
When the job is done, this guy'll be ready to dig into something mighty good to eat.
How do you handle a hungry man? The manhandlers.
One of the manhandlers is Campbell's vegetable beef. It's a man-sized supper off to a good hot start. Good.
The manhandlers.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211 Infoline. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
Shaper is the one bit I have when you're having more than one. Shaper pleasure doesn't fade even when your thirst is done. The most rewarding flavor in this man's world for people who are having fun. Shaper is the one bit I have when you're having more than one.
Ever wonder what makes Schaefer the one beer to have when you're having more than one? One reason is more than one fermentation. Most brewers just ferment their beer once, but Schaefer is fermented twice. Once to make it beer, and twice to make it Schaefer. The one beer with flavor so fine, it keeps shining through glass after frosty glass. More than one fermentation is one reason, but of course there's more than one reason behind the one beer to have when you're having more than one.
If you're talking, they will hear you every single time.
Now we're getting
killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. 0 tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's a first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I've made it clear to Matt that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, Bill, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboys fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, get any.
The Hometown Foundation is excited to bring back the Dream Ride experience, August 26th to the 28th at Connecticut's Farmington Polo Club. Join us in celebrating the accomplishments of our Dream Riders while enjoying live music, a car and motorcycle show, family fun zone, pet adoptions, canine demonstrations, the Fireman's Chili Cook-Off, and much, much more. Get your tickets today.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show, our Friday edition. We're on live Sunday through Thursday, or Thursday through Sunday, I should say, 8 to 10 a.m. I'm your host, Mac, with your co-host, Jack Hirsch. And Jack, of course, there's always a lot of stuff going on in sports, especially down in Philly sports. And just to mention of all the work Pags does, he'll be with me at that Dream Ride we just talked about, where he'll be appearing and in front of all those kids and everything. It's going to be wild. So we're going to have a good time when he comes down to Connecticut at the Farmington Polo Grounds. And with that, let's bring up the Philly guy himself, Jamie Pags, on the show. How you doing today, James?
I'm doing well, guys. How are you?
Doing great. I call you Jamie. Wow, that's the first time I've called you Jamie, I think, since I've known you. So anyway, Pags is my favorite name for him anyway. So Pags,
I invented that name. Actually, give me the credit for it. No one called him that before I called him that.
Oh, what, Pags?
Pags.
Yeah, you could talk to my company commanders when I went to boot camp.
Yeah, there you go.
They called me Pags from the very door.
Sure.
I wouldn't let people call me Pags for a long time.
Well, I don't count the military. I'm talking about when you're out there amongst the public. They called you a lot of other things there too.
Oh, they did. They lots of other things.
So Pags, let's get into the little Philly sports here. The Phillies beat the Marlins last night. Your interim coach seems to have the pulse of the Phillies right now under control. He did make a couple interesting changes that I saw. He moved the first base coach to third base and the third base coach to first. And while people don't think that's a big deal, it really is, because the first base coach has to know the infield, which is where, you know, who you have there now, a former infielder. And he has to know the arms. He has to know how they turn the double plays. He has to know when to do the hit and runs and when to send the players and the stealing off the pitchers. And if he doesn't know all of that, you can lose a couple games because of that. And the third base coach, of course, he should be responsible for the outfielders. He should be checking out the outfielders, how strong their arms are, who to run on and who not to run on, who to take that extra base off of. And when it's in the gap, can that player get to that ball? That's what he's responsible for. Now, if you don't have those two coaches in the right positions, again, you can lose some games because of that, Pax.
You know what? There's been a number of things that have been done that are much different than Joe, and I would say have come out to work. You know, I feel that there are literally I mentioned before, every team wins 60, every team loses 60. So there's other 42 games that really make the biggest difference. And I would put losses on Joe into those 42. There are actually a couple of wins that I put in on Thompson for doing certain things that, they're just much different than the way Joe did things. And they're working out right now, and the team's a lot happier. I think, like I said, once Joe left, the sigh of relief from everybody just kind of resonated. And, they've had their clunkers, you know what I mean? They've had a couple of defensive breakdowns in the process of this 14 game, 12 or 14. But right now they're playing really good baseball.
Yeah, I agree. The moves at trade deadline, Pags, I heard the Phillies are going to look inward first before they try to get a reliever. Now, the relievers are probably the best to get at the trade deadline because you'll get relievers, for 1 year for a song that other teams are going to unload even if they're on bad teams. But from what I read, the Phillies are going to look down to their minor league system first before they go to other teams.
I think that's a way of saying that they don't really – the only asset that I keep hearing over and over again is Rhys Hoskins. And I think the Phillies are very hesitant to trade him. And I'm not sure why, but it's not like he's
homegrown. Homegrown guys, you're more reluctant to trade.
Understood, but if you could actually get something of worth, it would be worth it because he's creating a little bit of a logjam because of him being at first base, and he's a streaky hitter. So it's sometimes he's good, sometimes he's bad, but his defense is only so. And I think that they could work out something better because it looks like that Harper's going to wind up being stuck on the DH all year. I don't believe he's going to be able to get back in the outfield. And it doesn't matter that he can't throw. I think that he's going to eventually have to have surgery. So right after the season's over, he's going to wind up having that surgery, and they're just putting it off right now.
I think what gives the Phillies a big boost is Didi Gregorius coming back because they weren't really getting great production from the shortstop position. And defensively, he's certainly not a liability, and he hits. So I think that's going to be helpful.
Well, you know what? He wasn't hitting. So I'll be honest, I believe that the injury was kind of timely for him and that he needed the break. He needed to be able to watch the game a little bit. And I think that, and once he's come back, he's been a much better hitter than he's been the entire time he's been here. So I will give some credit to Didi. You know what I mean? That, like I said, I think he needed to just sit back and watch the game for a little while. And now he was able to, when you stop doing something for a second and then you go back to doing it, and I'm saying a second, I'm saying for a little bit of time, you have to go back to the very basics of all the fundamentals, and you start doing those things correctly. And it's when you do it over time that you try to mimic exactly what it is that you're doing, and then you start tweaking a couple of things because you think that maybe you did it this way instead of this way. I think that that's what happened. When he got injured, he was able to go back to all of his fundamentals and his basics. And it worked. It actually, got him back on track, where he was like sub 200 before this. And now he's actually, I think he's similar around 300, 320 maybe right now.
Yeah, I think close to 300 he's hitting, but he has a body of work. So he's going
to. He does. But like I said, since he's been with the Phillies, he's not been very productive. So, like I said, you never want to wish somebody to get hurt, but I think it was timely. I think it was just something that he needed. He needed to take a break. He needed to be able to watch and see what was going on. And then, once he came back, he was able to just put it all back together again.
Listen, Didi with the Yankees was good. It wasn't great, but he's very good. Good hitter, very quick, and played a decent shortstop. So, definitely, if he's healthy, that's definitely going to be a benefit to you guys. So hopefully he keeps going. I'm rooting for him. Let's talk a little bit about the Eagles. The Eagles, of course, the training camp is almost over, and I've been telling everybody and every guest, everybody raves about how great everybody looks. Of course, we won't really know until they really start hitting, and maybe that comes in preseason. But they have been raving about Nakobe Dean. All right, his power, his speed, how he catches players. You know, and the new defensive coordinator there likes to blitz more than the old defensive coordinator. This might be the steal of the draft, Pags.
Well, he's the steal of the draft, but our defensive coordinator is not somebody who likes to blitz.
That's what they said. Jonathan Gannon prefers to blitz more. That will showcase.
Did you watch last year?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, yeah, he blitzed less than every other team out there. I think other than the Raiders. I think the Raiders blitzed like 1% less than he did. There was a couple of coaches, and I'm not at liberty to say names, but there were a couple of coaches, defensive coaches, that were on the field with the Eagles, higher name coaches that were on the field with Gannon because he got called out under the bus last year. Like he was not happy. The defense was not happy with the plays that he was calling. And he got called out by Cox, if you remember. And then the whole defensive line started to call him out. Well, they brought in some extra coaches to help Gannon a little bit. So I think that this defense is going to take a little bit of a better it's going to look a lot different than it did last year. And Nakobe Dean is going to be a big part of that. You know, I mean, I feel like that, you know, since Jeremiah Trotter, because he was probably the one that I can actually remember best. And before that would be Berge, really, because there wasn't anybody. Well, you got Seth Joyner and stuff like that. But those, you know, we haven't had many middle linebackers. The middle of the field has been open for a long time against the Eagles. And now I feel like we've got the right guy who can close it.
Yeah, we'll see, Pags. I mean, it should be very interesting to see if Nakobe Dean makes that much of a difference. Hey, listen, I think he's gonna. I think you know, a lot of people say he's undersized. 5'11", 230 is not too small to me. I don't know. I mean, what are you looking for?
So he's exactly my size.
Right.
Literally, when I met him, we were eye to eye. You know, similar body style. He's probably in a little bit better shape than I am. But right. You know, it's, you know, but he is. So he's not very. He can get lost in there a little bit, you know, because you got guys like Cox and now, oh my God, his name just really, but yeah. Anyways, you got guys that are 6'6", 300 pounds plus in front of these quarterbacks. Now he can get lost back there a little bit and surprise. So, and that's what I really believe. Davis is what I was trying to think of. Jordan Davis. Then the name just lost me for a second. But like I said, we have a very big defensive line, and he's smaller, much smaller. But I think that that's going to, you know, help camouflage him in a lot of ways.
Jack wants to ask you a question about the Flyers. Go ahead, Jack.
Oh, yeah, they got a new coach now. They sent 4-year deal, John Tortorella. What do you mean not yet? I thought it was.
They haven't signed him yet. He's going to be the new coach. They're still working out the deal. At least that's what they're saying.
That is a major hire. They got one of the most high-profile coaches that they could have gotten, and they're making a real commitment to him. I mean, so if I'm a Philadelphia Flyer fan, I'd be happy about that. I was about to say that signing, but that move being made.
The big thing with him is accountability, and I feel like that franchise right now needs a lot of it. And I am not as I'm more apprehensive about this hire. I'm not a big fan of bringing in guys who had success at one point. Like he's won one Stanley Cup.
Columbus,
he's known as being a
Columbus.
Yeah, he did well with Columbus. He didn't do well with the Rangers. He didn't really do well with Vancouver. You know what I mean? They made it to the playoffs, but they never really made any splashes. So, I mean, he did win a cup. And you know what? But I do like his fire and his tenacity and the fact that he's going to hold people accountable.
Yeah.
And he's not quiet about it. He's not, you know, he's going to be, if somebody's playing like crap, he's going to let them know that
he's
they're
a
playing
Philly
like crap.
type of guy, Pags.
Well, and that's what I'm interested to see how this all works. Because I know Hitchcock was also like a Philly type of guy. And Mike Keenan was also like a Philly type of guy. And, you know, between them, we didn't get any cups. So
You know,
that's what I want. I
Cups,
want.
we don't care. What do you care about Cups getting out of the cellar? Just being respectable. That's all.
No,
My
what's
fans
the
want-
point of
No,
that?
it's
What's
not
the point of
just-
that? You know, eventually they're going to get good players and they're going to get out of the cellar. I
Well,
want
eventually,
cups.
but for
The
next
the
year,
franchises
just
are
to
known
be
for championships.
respectable. And you
So-
wanna, you're looking for a cup next year.
No, I'm not looking for a cup next year. I'm looking for the building block towards a cup.
You'll get that next year with Tortorella.
I am interested to see. I am interested to see.
Let me ask you what else. Just we could get back to hockey in a moment if you want, but there's talk that the city of Philadelphia is bidding seriously on the 2026.
We got it.
Soccer
We got the
World
bid.
Cup.
We got the bid. We're in. We're in. We're having a game.
You're having a game. How
We're
many
having a
games?
World Cup game.
How many? Not just
I
one.
I
game.
think that all the cities they chose. They were only supposed to choose 7 cities, and they wound up choosing 13, which makes me believe that they're probably going to each city's going to get a couple of games. The criteria for being chosen as a city was you needed to have a number of training facilities within like 20 minutes to a half hour of where the game is being played. Just so happens that, you know, Philadelphia is one of those locations that is able to handle that. Like they have where the Union play now, Subaru Park, and in a direct shot without any traffic, you can get right to Lincoln Financial Field in 20 minutes, you know, in 20 minutes to a half hour. Citizens Bank Park is also considered a training facility. They could use that. They could use Franklin Field. So there was a number of different spots. I expect that Philadelphia will probably hold 2, maybe 3 games. And I expect that they're going to be mid-round games. I don't expect that
You
they're
know,
gonna be
I
finals.
hope fans can get tickets to a high-profile game. I know when they had it in the Meadowlands in New Jersey, I think it was 1994, I badly wanted to experience the World Cup fever. The only game that I could get tickets to was Morocco against Saudi Arabia. And those weren't exactly hockey powers. I went anyway so I could say I was at a World Cup event, but I wanted to see Brazil and Italy or, you know, Germany or England. But, you know, it wasn't the game I wanted to see. So I hope the people in Philadelphia are going to have access to be able to experience the game. It doesn't all go to corporations.
They should. They should. Actually, Philadelphia is a really, it's small, but it is a really strong soccer following in Philly. They have a couple of different soccer groups. The Sons of Ben were the group that actually brought the Union to Philadelphia. There is, you know, they typically sell out the 20,000 seat arena where the Union play. The Union are actually a very good team right now, and they have to be first in the MLS on the East. So there's a lot of different things that are going well for Philadelphia, and they really tried hard. Like the Sons of Ben, the Union. There's another group, soccer group. I don't remember their name right off the top of my head. They all lobbied really hardly, real hard for this, and they were able to get it. But so is they're having it up in New York. They're having it in Dallas. So it's in New York. Obviously, it's MetLife Stadium is going to be having a game. So there's going to be a lot of soccer happening within this region.
And I'll tell you guys, I can't wait. Let's get to some real sports here. You're hosting an arm wrestling competition coming up Saturday, Bags, or you'll be there, I should say. Is Keystone? Say the name.
The Keystone State Arm Wrestling Championships.
Right, and it starts
right. So it's going to start at around noon. There's 600 competitors slated to be there. It is one of the largest arm wrestling events in the world. When you have that many competitors, I mean, the last time I saw that many competitors in one spot, it was the World Championships when I was out there in Budapest in 2017. So it's just all different types. So from all the way from the novice who have never been on an arm wrestling table to, pros, like mega pros, big stars that are going up and actually competing, because this is going to be sanctioned by the WAL, which is the World Arm Wrestling League. and people are looking to get, drafted in essence by the wall so that they could have some of their matches on TV and higher profile. So I expect it to be a really great event. And it's going to be interesting when you have that many people out, arm wrestling. And of course, I'm going to be the one announcing. I'm going to have a number of different color commentators they're going to help me out with that. You may even see me on the table a little bit, but not as much. When I go up against those big guys, I thought I was good when I was beating everybody at the bar. When you go up against professionals, you realize exactly how good you're not.
Exactly. And that starts at 12, you said, Pags. How long are you going to run that for?
Till it's done, till the pro table is done. And that could be as long as 8 hours. Because we have it's the pro men, the pro women, and left and right. And then they range in weight classes from, I think it's 150 to heavyweights. And some of the heavyweights are, 300, 350, 400 pounds.
People don't realize the technique to arm wrestling, and I don't pretend to know anything about it, but I understand technique is so important. There was this story of the Jet defensive tackle Mark Gastineau in the bar having an arm wrestle with someone, and Gastineau, my guess would be the stronger guy, yet he lost to the guy in arm wrestling, and Gastineau, being the mature individual he was, wanted to start fighting everyone in the bar right after, reportedly. But there's a certain technique to it. So your biggest, strongest guy, could lose to someone who has a little less, strength than him because of the technique involved, right, Pax?
Well, and that's absolutely correct. The greatest of all time, is named John Brzenk, who was an airline mechanic who stood 5'10", 5'11", 210, 215 pounds. And he would go up against guys that would sometimes double his size. And he just had the technique and the arm strength and the hand strength to be able to just beat these guys. He went undefeated for like 18, 20 years. When everybody talks about the movie Over the Top, there was an actual tournament that was involved. He was the one that won that tournament. And he went up against all those guys. And a lot of those things. And he was just sort of unassuming guy. If you look in that movie, they show him like once or twice, and he's wearing a collared shirt, like a red collared shirt, very unassuming guy, and was just an absolute beast. And at 52 years old, he's actually making a comeback.
Wow.
So
is age a fact in arm wrestling? Because I know in other sports, you make a comeback at age 52. The odds extremely slim you're going to be successful. But is age factor into arm wrestling? I mean, is it a sport like others where youth is served in the 20s and early 30s, and then the athlete starts fading out in arm wrestling?
At the world championship level, they have a Supermasters, which is 70 plus. And I'll be honest with you, I could go up against every single one of those guys 70 plus. Now I'll be 50 this year, so it's not like I'm a spring chicken either. And they're going to smoke me. And it doesn't matter the weight class. Like I've gone up against guys that are like 130, 140. They look frail as can be and will just crush you. And the funniest thing is this is happening out in Hanover, Pennsylvania. So there's a good amount of Amish that are out there. You arm wrestle a 14-year-old Amish girl, and you get to feel a lot less like a man afterwards.
I heard about that, Bags. I've heard about that.
They work with their hands. They're just bullish, strong, and thick. And even though they could look skinny, they could look frail. They got the bonnets on, and they will crush your soul.
I believe it.
Because you feel like, oh, I got this beat, and then you got this little girl who's just pulling your arm down.
Let me ask you this, just with technique, is the initial grip vital?
Very.
I mean,
my Lord.
I mean everything.
There's so much that goes into it. The longest portion of an arm wrestling battle is the setup. And the ref's got to have the hands a very specific way. You don't want to give anybody an advantage. And there's certain things that you could do and just certain ways that you could hold your hand, that just a couple of muscles engaged will give you that advantage over your partner or over against your opponent. And then, of course, if you slip out and you get the straps, where the buckle is also really important. If the buckle is on your side, you actually have a little bit of a disadvantage in comparison to somebody who doesn't have the buckle, and how you can use the strap to be able to use to your advantage and pull the other guy along where you don't have to have as much hand strength.
And Pax, with training too, I once saw on ABC's Wide World of Sports years ago, one of the arm wrestlers, and I hope I'm using the right term, that it's okay, saying that he did a lot of road work because he said in long, tough contests, he felt that would give him an edge stamina-wise. So he trained in a different way where he would run a lot, figuring that would help him during the arm wrestling.
So there's something to be said for endurance. When you are in a bullish match, when you got somebody who you're going toe-to-toe with, the problem is that once you win, you have to arm wrestle again. You don't get much of a break. So you have to, if you give all your strength against one guy to beat that one guy, the next guy has got a little bit of advantage if he had somebody very quick he was able to put down.
I mean,
those are the types of things that.
From what I saw, Pags, a lot has to do with speed too. That off that mark, if you get that quick jump, you got to. I mean, he's trying to be defensive and locking his arm up on you, where you're actually pulling him down. So if you get that first speed jump, I've seen him pulling back too. But a lot of the matches end just like that. It's done. As soon as
and that's absolutely correct. It takes, like I said, it could take 5 minutes to put the hands together and get it all right, and it's done in less than 2 seconds.
Can a guy get hurt during competition, arm wrestling?
It's one of the most cringe-worthy sounds to hear when an arm breaks, because it's a compound fracture.
Sure.
And it's because what'll happen is that if your arm gets out of your shoulder, your bone's not meant to twist, and it will shatter.
That's got to be
fun.
That's got to be crazy. Pags, we're running out of time, so I got to let you go. We got to get off the air. But again, folks, Saturday starting at 12, it'll be on a Roku channel and YouTube channel. Correct, Pags?
That is correct. We're going to have it on Roku. We're also going to be live on the WAL network and a number of different arm wrestling ones. So
we don't want to tell them that. Roku network, watch Realty Streaming Sports.
Well, Roku's going to be the best way. You can have it on the big screen. So
you have it on the big screen. That's right. So Pags, again, thank you for coming in. I'll be in touch with you later. I got some things going behind the scenes that are pretty big that might happen. But anyway. Enjoy your day, Pags. Enjoy your weekend. And we'll see you on Sunday. I'll be here. Jack might not because he's going to the big boxing match.
I'll be there Sunday. I'm tuning in. I get up early in the morning.
All right.
I mean, I know you need a lot of sleep, but I could go on short sleep for the show. I'm like Joe Namath, staying out till all night and then coming in the morning doing the show.
Say again, Pags?
You guys didn't even talk about the biggest news in Philadelphia. The Eagles changed their logo.
I didn't want to get into that. We'll save that for Sunday, Pags. All right. We'll save that for Sunday. So yeah, the logo, I saw that, and that's very interesting, folks. Thanks for joining us here on the Mac and Jack Sports Show and all the great guests that we had in today. We'll see you tomorrow on the Mac and Jack Sports Debate Show. Again, thanks to Pags for filling in all he does for me and filling in for me and Jack on Friday was awesome. And they did an awesome job. We'll see you tomorrow, and have a great weekend if you don't make it.